besides selling equipment, we took one of our equipment, put it inside our building, and we said, hey, we're going to do toll process. So if you came and said, I have 100 tons of this special algae, I don't want to buy the equipment, we will toll it for you. So that gave us recurring revenue. So we are moving from selling equipment, trying to focus on selling services, which has a lot higher profitability, and also it focuses our resources into few things that we are very good at. Instead of selling equipment to every different person who wants for every different application, we just spread ourselves too thin when we sell our equipment. But when we are doing toll services, it's very focused. Right now, we are the experts in processing algae with supercritical. And that's really what we want to be, so we can charge a top dollar because we understand this product very well, a lot better than anybody else. So that's what Thar Process does today. The next thing that we did on this technology is we started making nanoparticles. And nanoparticles using supercritical fluids. And we focused it specifically on pharma. And as you'll see the theme that I have here, the base technology is supercritical, the applications are different. So we are still using our core strength. We are not trying to get into a different technology. We are using the same technology, but a different application. And we could have done all of this under one company, but the objective I had was if I had everything under one, we would not have focus. To create a focus, we have a separate team, which all they are thinking of in this particular case is pharmaceutical. And in this case, we started, and this is very important for entrepreneurs, is you may start somewhere and end up somewhere. We started on nanoparticles, spent a lot of time and money and realized, geez, the market is not there, it's gone away. What do we do? We quickly came and realized that we need to move away from this kind of technology to something that would be more interesting. And one of the interesting we located was trying to make IV drugs, which you see here, right here, into oral. Very interesting, you know. If you give an IV today, you have to go to a hospital and cost a lot of money, especially in the United States, you know, from the doctor's office, nurse, and everything. If somehow we can figure out how to take an IV drug and make it into an oral tablet, wouldn't that be fantastic? And that's what we are doing here. And we went and got a technology called co-crystal technologies. That's what we are implementing right now, and it's a $2 billion drug that we are going after. And if we are successful, the trials are starting in the beginning of Jan. The phase 1, which will follow up with the phase 2, it will bring tremendous benefit to a whole bunch of patients who are using this drug currently with IV. And you know, whenever somebody gets IV already today, they're probably getting IV for a whole bunch of other issues. So even if you can eliminate one IV, it benefits the patient quite a bit. So that's really what we are trying to work on. That's what Thar Pharmaceuticals does. Once we sold instruments, you know, the problem with serial entrepreneurs is they're looking, what else can I do next now? And that's a good and a bad thing, because now you're focusing into something else, and we got into energy. In energy, we have just about done all kinds of crazy stuff. We have looked at biofuels, which was hot when we started this company, Thar Energy. But you quickly realize after spending time, biofuels are very difficult. Oil is still a lot cheaper, even at $150 a barrel, it's still a lot cheaper than doing biofuels. And the only reason that they will ever be economical is because you get credits from the central government or the federal government in the case of the US. And unless you get those credits, you're not going to be economical. So we started looking at that and saying, no way we want to be, despite the fact we spent 3 years trying to develop all of this, and say, let's move on into something where you can make money. And this is very important whenever you're starting a company. You know, you may start on one side and then realize it's not working. The important thing is that you got to be smart enough to move or pivot. That's the term that they use now to figure out what else is out there that you can do which can make you money. And in this particular case, we are focusing on a couple applications. One of them is geothermal heat pumps. And the one thing I want to mention back is we're using the same technology. We use CO2 to replace a Freon, which is the refrigerant in your HVAC. And CO2 has a zero global warming potential, zero ozone depletion potential. So it's very green, but the process still has to be economical. And we move energy from the building into the ground in summer. We move heat energy from the ground to the building in winter. So that's what we do with geothermal, and that's really what we are working on. We're also doing water. We're using supercritical water, and we are looking at power generation, where we are going to replace water in a steam Rankine cycle with a CO2 Brayton cycle. So when you hear all these things, you'll see the same common technology, but different applications. And the first application that I mentioned is geothermal, which we established this company in 2010. We are a manufacturer of all the major components that go into geothermal, which is the heat pump systems and the drilling. And what we did to launch the company is, besides putting our own money, we had some of the state funding from Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority and a GBA and Innovation Works. All these three are economic development teams in our zone, where they helped us launch this company. So not only you're putting your money, you need to go out and see where other grants are available, so that it helps launch your company a lot more easier without having to give up too much equity. At the end of the day, the bottom line is, if you give up too much equity, you're not going to make enough money. And that's a balance between how much risk you want to take, how much time you want to spend, and how much money you want to make. The reason why we are interested in HVAC is really 30 to 50% of all the energy in the United States is used to heat or cool the building. It's such a big market. We are, if you tackle this problem, it's a multi-billion-dollar market. That's what attracted us. And if we can be efficient without any government credits, that's what we are going for. We are not interested in a technology where without government credits play a major role, and without them you can't survive. So we are looking at the government credits as an icing on the cake. Now, we like geothermal because it's widely used in the United States, Europe, and Asia. It doesn't work very well in very hot countries, tropical countries. So we are looking at countries where there's both heating and cooling. So that's our target market. And what you see, the slide here is, this is from a company that makes geothermal systems. What you see on the extreme right is the operating cost for a standard residential place in the United States. And we are way down on the left-hand side for geothermal compared to all the other different techniques that are out there. All the way up to 3.8 times greater are some of the other techniques. So we have an inherent built-in advantage. The only thing we are trading off here is operating cost versus capital cost. And as long as there's a significant difference between the two costs, you can work with the increased capital cost. And that's very important. And so the business model we have here, just like everything else that I'm trying to do, we are not really interested in selling equipment. That's a decision you have to make. We made a decision, we are not interested in selling equipment. We want to sell conditioned air. So we want to sell the cooling energy into this building, or we want to sell heating energy. We want to be in the services business, because once we get a customer on geothermal side, we have a 5 or a 10-year contract. We have that customer for 10 years. So you're guaranteed a 10-year recurring revenue. If you sell a piece of hardware, that makes you have to sell hardware every year. So that's something you have to do, but you're trading something else. That means you have to maintain it. It's your problem if something goes wrong. So there's advantages and disadvantages, and you have to think through all of that. And that's what geothermal does. The next, I mentioned this to you on the power sector. On the power sector, a steam Rankine cycle is not very efficient. we are trying to replace water in a steam Rankine cycle with CO2. The CO2 Brayton cycle is actually more efficient for the same temperature, or lower temperature for the same efficiency. And lower temperature means lower capital cost. And capital cost is a major player in the energy side of the business. And in the steam cycle, the reason why the CO2 Brayton cycle works, since you're all engineers here, so I'm going to give you a little thing, is we recover energy after the turbine. And it's called the recuperator. And we use that to preheat the CO2 before it goes into the solar tower. This recuperator is the most important thing. And for whatever reasons, we created a group of organizations, which is GE, General Electric, Southwest Research, and Thar. We have this three-way partnership to develop this technology. And all I can say is, God knows for what reasons, GE thinks Thar is the only company who can develop this, and they are working with us. So we created this, I don't want to say illusion, but really a marketing thing, which is we know what to do here. And GE was convinced, and they were able to, okay, say, let's work on a $8 million Department of Energy grant on this, and we are getting about $1.9 million to develop this technology. So as long as somebody else pays for it, I have no problem starting a company. The real reason we are interested is we truly believe this technology will make small power plants economical. I'm talking 1 to 3 megawatts. So what does this really mean? What it means is, in a country like India, you can put one of these, whether it's solar-based or biofuel-based or coal-based, doesn't matter what the source of energy, in pretty much every village or a little town that's out there. If you can make electricity in India distributed, you won't have the grid disaster that we had a couple months ago. I don't know if you know that when we lost the 2 days of power, which is 680 plus million didn't have electricity, it was the first news item on all TV network in the United States. So you can understand what kind of impression we have had lately. So making energy distributed is very key, and that's why we are in this business. And it's a very interesting thing, from a marketing point of view. GE will never sell a 1 to 3 megawatt unit. It's just too small. Unless it's 50 megawatts, they are not interested. That's great for me, because that's what I want to do. So I would work with GE, where they will give us the rotating machinery technology. We'll put that together and sell the plant. So it's a very interesting play for Thar. And the last one that I'm working on, which is again a major society-related issue, is water. We all say the next set of wars are going to be based on water. So we can take any water, whether it's frack water, seawater, brackish water, industrial water, sewage water, and we can make potable water. We have a pilot plant at our lab. Again, it's supercritical technology. We take the same technology that we have been using, different application, different market, very large market, $1 billion, multi-billion dollar. Why is this technology so interesting? We take the water, run it to about 500 degrees centigrade, which means we destroy all the organics, all the biologicals. We precipitate all the salts under those conditions. We can start with seawater at 30,000 ppm. I can give you water at 50 ppm or less. If you have regular water, if you clean it up, the water that runs through the system is actually, when it comes out, is truly IV grade water. You don't get a better quality water out of this.